Yeah, I ate that. Oh, good morning. What's up, Ryan? Oh, I'm tired. Good morning, guys. Oh, good morning, Eric. Good morning, Randy, Tom, Tavian's World of Reptiles. What's up, everyone? Thanks for hanging out this morning. I'm surprised I've made it to my 9:30 time slot today. I have been feeling wrecked the last few days. Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago we were talking about burning out, and I'm not burning out, but I think I've been pushing myself a little too hard. Morning, Steven. Morning, Carly. Yeah, feels like I'm breathing, so that's, crucial. Yeah, as Travis mentioned, I've been having some issues. I found myself in the hospital Wednesday morning, so that was a first for me. Yeah, feeling better, not 100%. Pretty fatigued and lethargic. I'm sure the steroids will kick in soon here and I'll be off to the races like normal, but yeah, it seems that, to lay the groundwork, I've had allergies my whole life, and it's not just like I get itchy and sneezy. It's like I get itchy, sneezy, puffy, runny nose, watering eyes, itchy eyes, and it looks like I've got the flu when I have, my typical allergy symptoms. And it's a lot of outdoor pollens and grass hay and things like that. Morning, Bill. So allergies will give me like a breathing challenge on their own, and it's usually in the morning when I've been laying down and finally getting up, and all the mucus and stuff in me has to like settle and clear out, and it's just gross, and I sound like an old man wheezing and just not pretty. And I've been going to the doctors to like see if maybe I do have asthma, doing pulmonary function tests and things like that, and they weren't convinced. Like the albuterol testing we did showed improvement, so it was like maybe I have a little bit of something, but it wasn't enough to really say like definitively like, yeah, you've got asthma. Also, every time I've gone and gotten tested, it's always been after things like have settled down, so like it doesn't give them the full scope of what it sounds like in my lungs by that time. And yeah, and I didn't know I had asthma until Wednesday morning, and woke up at 3 a.m., couldn't really breathe that well, tried to get some water, going back to bed, didn't work, and yeah, by 6 a.m. while I'm making breakfast and coffee and getting ready for work, it's just getting worse instead of better. And yeah, it was pretty scary. I was like basically not able to get air in, and just coughing like crazy. Is it sounding weird again? Is it echoing? I think it's just because where the microphone is placed in the computer here, because I don't have any fancy equipment. So I apologize. I'll work on that some more. But yeah, basically I had an asthma attack that closed up my airways, and I could actually feel inside my chest just how flat and empty my lungs were, and how it wasn't air wasn't going in, and I was starting to like get clammy and sweaty and pale, and I was kind of fading in and out of like my clear-headed consciousness, and I was losing it fast. And here, let me try this to see if this fixes that robo thing. I think what's going on is it's echoing off of what I have this computer propped up on. Also, it's not an aftermarket microphone, so this computer doesn't have the greatest microphone. But until YouTube lets me go back to streaming on my phone, I'm gonna have to tinker with it. Anyway, had a bad asthma attack. My girlfriend pretty much saved my life before I was about to vomit and pass out and choke on all of that and die in my kitchen. And EMS came and got me on some oxygen and steroids and took me away in an ambulance. And by the time I was at the ER, I was, stabilizing and breathing better. But I spent a couple hours in the hospital with needles and hoses and shit all over me, and IVs and blood samples and face masks and all this stuff. I think I even have a picture of it that you might be able to see it if I show you. So that was me Wednesday morning. Instead of going to work like I always do, I went to the hospital. So, but yeah, now I'm on twice daily steroid inhalers. I'm taking a brief regimen of steroids just to help with the inflammation, get my lungs back up to their own support system, and then gotta have some follow-up doctor's visits about moving forward, medication, things like that. But yeah, that was easily the scariest thing I've ever been through. And as somebody who's grown up as a reckless kid, jumping off roofs, skating down hills, snowboarding off cliffs, and wakeboarding and flying as hard and fast as I could, and like literally not caring about whether I'm gonna come out of whatever I was doing well or not. Nothing really compared to the fact that when you feel like you're about to die, you're pretty aware of it. So yeah, I thought that was it. So glad it wasn't. But yeah, so yeah, exactly, Carly. If she wasn't there, if I was like home alone, or if she was, on vacation or at a work conference or something, I'd have been screwed, really screwed. So yeah, that's been fun. But yeah, so there's that. Hopefully I don't have to do any more. Yeah, right. I've got Nido. It mutated into a human strain. But yeah, so now I've got to really work at my lung health and change some things, and be living on an inhaler for a while. So that was the excitement of my week. What are you doing, dude? This fool. Come here. Hey, get out of here. Everyone say hi to Nurse Jimmy. He hung out with me and made sure I was okay when I stayed home. You're interrupting the show, my guy. You opened the door and you came in and you broke my train of thought, my guy. You got zoomies, you're gonna go run around? Hold up. Alright. So. Yeah, life alert. I've fallen and I can't get up. Yeah. So. That was fun. But I will be, I'll be at Pomona this weekend, so can't keep me down. It's a little oxygen deprivation. Psh, it'll take a lot more than that to kill me. Appreciate it, Tom. Appreciate it, Bill. So yeah, if anybody's gonna be at Pomona this weekend, I'll see you there. I'm gonna drive down Friday, try and get there before the end of setup, and then I'll be leaving Sunday. But I'll probably be hanging out with Cusco like last time. Definitely not puking in trash cans. Hopefully this time. But yeah. So Pomona's coming up. We'll segue right into that. Pomona's this weekend. It's the August one, so arguably you could say the January one's bigger and better, but it's still a Pomona show. It still rocks. It's still huge, tons of vendors, and my favorite booth and vendor to see every time is my boy Todd from Psychotic Exotics. I I could look at his displays and his animals all day. I love all of it. You guys know I'm really a nut. I think Dave Calling does that show too, so there might be rainbow boas there. It's probably in that season. He might have some litters ready by now. I don't know. I can't recall. But anyway, I hope to see some of you all there. If you guys are there, swing by Ryan Cusco's booth, the Triple B TV booth. He's going to be doing what he normally does, where he has some interviews and things set up. I think maybe not quite the same. We might do a little bit more of a freestyle type of show and stuff, but one way or another, I'm there helping him out with cameras and stuff like that. And then sounds like Ed will be there. Hope to see you there, Ed. I might need to talk to you ahead of time and see if you can bring me some more of the hatchling liners. I ran out. I don't know if any of you saw the video that I put out a couple days ago where I was talking about the tub liners that Ed Villardo makes. Ed's in the chat right now. If y'all are looking for an alternative for bedding for some of your snakes that live in racks or even cages, he can custom cut any of it. I highly recommend at least trying it. It's like this really thick, true natural pulp paper. There are no additives, colors, dyes, or anything like that. What you don't know about like newspaper and just clean, plain white butcher paper is that even though there isn't any text or ink printed on it, it's still dyed and full of chemicals. Why do you think it turns purple if you like leave water on it for a couple days? Like all these weird things happen. Your animals are in an enclosed space breathing that in. Not good. Really not good. There's a reason why, Ed, I'm sorry for, some of your friends who've passed, and I hope this isn't too delicate or too insensitive. I'm trying to be delicate about it, but folks who work in the printing business spend a long time ingesting a lot of those chemicals, and unfortunately, some of them end up passing way too young from being exposed to that stuff. So if people are having issues with it, our animals are certainly going to have issues with it. And after, hearing about that from Ed, I was like, I can't imagine subjecting my animals to unnecessary chemicals and things when I know I can do alternatives. Even just doing anything other than that dyed paper is better. Even coconut husk chips or bark and stuff is better, even if you're not a fan of it. So that got me thinking, it's really convenient having a $25 roll of, or $30 roll of white butcher paper to fit some of the tubs. But what's really nice about Ed's liners is they feel really nice. It's smooth, but there is some texture to it, and it's really rigid and thick, so they don't crinkle and fold quite as easily. Your snake's not gonna toss it out of the way and then crap on the plastic of the tub. It's really hard for them to move it out of the way. You can spray it down with water, and it'll hold moisture, it won't mold, and it'll eventually dry out. And it smells really kind of neutral. You don't really smell anything. I personally think it looks nice. I like that sort of brownish look. I don't know. I really like it. I think it's a great product. And, if you're not a big fan of particulate bedding and you want to go a little more sterile, I think it's probably the best option on the market. And if any of you know anything about wholesale and how that works and bulk pricing and stuff, basically there's like a chain of command before it gets to us as a consumer. And Ed skipped all those other steps. He's gone straight to the source, gotten the virgin stock, as they call it. They don't make it a lot for other products because it is very specific. Not a lot of other companies want to pay for that when it comes to like packaging of things like that. They really don't care if there's, dyed thin stuff. They're just going for the best bang for their buck and the cheapest stuff because they need to make higher profit margins. Well, what Ed's doing is getting the best quality because he's looking out for you and your animals. And if more of us get on this and more of us buy it and we start making it so Ed has to order bigger bulk orders at a time, he gets a better price break. And what he does is he turns that price break towards us and it makes it cheaper in the long run. So we'll start here, and as time goes on, it's only going to get more and more affordable. We just need it to catch fire and people really to support this product. We're very huge as a culture in today about what's going into our food. Like there's a big push for organics and just healthy options. We don't want anything with weird preservatives or anything like that in them. We're starting to become a more conscious community, and this is just one more way to do that. And you've got the buy local aspect on it. At least for me, he's rather local to me, but you can order it, and he's come up with a really clever and structurally sound and affordable way to package and keep the paper protected. Should he have to ship it to you? Very low material cost. It's very, in my opinion, it's very environmentally conscious. It's like the most environmentally conscious stuff out there. Right up there with like all the sustainably harvested coconut husk chips that they're getting from Sri Lanka, from all these companies, things like that. It's up there. It's a top contender in my opinion. Now, obviously, particulate bedding is great because you can just kind of boop, boop, just grab stuff and toss it. But you still every so often have to dump it out, do a full disinfect, and refresh it. Well, that still takes some time. With these liners, because he cuts them to fit, you can literally pull the other stuff, wipe it down, throw a new one in. In the video, I overlaid a clip kind of in the top corner, actually 2 clips, and you could see how long it took for me to clean a 41 quart tub, like 30 seconds. And when you've got a bunch of them or a bunch of animals and you can shave off half an hour to an hour in your cleaning time every week, dude, it's worth it. It's worth every penny. So I'm going to do what I can to support Ed and keep using this product as much as possible. Now, there are some animals that I will continue to keep on particulate bedding, like the Crebos and the hognose and the rainbow boas and things like that, that like to bury and kind of be under all that stuff. But as far as my carpet pythons, once the children's pythons are out of their tiny little boxes, things like that, I would like to use this product kind of exclusively. I'm a huge fan. I like things that make my life easy, even if I've got to spend a few bucks. I've gone through the years of, pillaging all the free newspaper stands and stacking up and using that stuff, but the first time I realized I hated that was when one of my albino carpets spilled some water on the newspaper and then ran through it, and all of her pretty yellow, white, and orange was just stained black and gross, and I had to like wash her off. And I was like, this can't be good. This is not good. Yeah, Tom, the craft paper, it's the same thing. You can get it and it looks blank. There's no printing on it. There's no nothing. But there's a lot of crap in there that you don't see, and that's the stuff that's going to release fumes. Like if an animal spills water on it, dude, game over. Your animal's breathing all that nasty stuff in. Snakes shouldn't be dying at 14 years old, regardless if they're breeding or not. These animals can live 20, 30 years, pretty much across the board for the most part of species. There's some that just don't, but, ball pythons should be breaching 40. Carpets should easily be making 20. Like boas can live into their 30s. Like, why are we not seeing this? And it's because there's a lot of other, human-induced factors, I'm sure, aside from overfeeding or underfeeding, health, things like that. But I like this paper stuff. I've got a bunch of it for my adults still. I burned through the stuff for my babies in about a month. And they come in packs of like 200, 250 or so. And like I said, Ed can cut them to whatever size tubs or racks you use. You got to give them the specific tubs. Like, hey, I use the tubs that the Vivarium Electronics or the Reptile Basics hatchling racks use, or whatever it is. Because some of them, their tubs might look exactly the same, but they're like millimeters off in dimensions, things like that. So, you just communicate that with him. Ed's an awesome guy. And I really, really want to see this product blow up on the market because of everything I've just talked about. Yeah, Adam's here. What's up, beach bum? Damn, every time I say beach bum exotics, I miss the Central Coast, Adam. Thanks a lot. I miss Santa Barbara. I love being back north. I love being home. My roots are up here, but I spent almost 11 years in Santa Barbara, and I know it better than my hometown now. So, yeah. And speaking of Adam, if any of y'all are not familiar with Adam of Beach Bum Exotics and Joel of State 48 Exotics, they're two awesome young dudes that are, well, I don't know how young they are. I don't ask questions. I don't ask age. They look younger than me. I'm losing my hair. They're not. Things like that. But they do a live stream. They were doing it together between their two channels, and then they merged and created like this really awesome joint project. And I think in today's age, the more podcasts and YouTube shows and things like that, that content that we can passively consume is the best. Because there's so much information we can all get out of it. And the networking is endless. Like we can all just kind of go down a YouTube hole and find all these really awesome people and really figure it out. So a weekly show, they do a live stream on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they do a live stream on Wednesdays, and then Thursdays they have the like actual show, because they do like a freestyle live stream. It's like really cool conversations and talks about stuff that's been going on and preps for the upcoming one. And then they have the next day their really prepared show where they have guests on and do that. And so I'll be on there this coming week on Thursday, and we're just gonna talk about whatever they want to talk about, and we're just gonna run with it. They're really awesome guys. I've met both of them at shows in Pomona, and just hanging out with them. It's like, you know when you meet somebody and you guys connect right off the bat. It's like one of those things, like you've probably been friends forever. So it could be my connection, guys. If you're saying you got crappy connection, I've been having issues. My life is issues, I guess. Yeah, so we'll be doing that. Pomona, get your paper, breathe. Oh man. So yeah, hope to see some of y'all at Pomona. I know Brian doesn't have as crazy rigid of a schedule going on as far as like what he's got planned, and it sounds like Joel is trying to figure out a purchase of a new snake or a new species to tinker with. And we might go walk around and do some window shopping and see if I can't influence him in some ways. But you got the audio, but my beautiful face with a spinning circle. Now, does that mean it's my connection, or is that just on your end? Because like I know when I was starting the stream, it was saying I was like, iffy connection. I'm in my room, so like I don't know if. Actually, I do know that the connection's not as great out here, so there might be something on that. I do this on a low budget. I don't have any extra mics, any audio equipment. I have this OBS studio that I have to use now, and I really don't understand what I'm doing. I'm like a sticks and stones kind of technology guy. So, but I think I'm gonna try and so not regularly, because I'm just lazy and busy and all these other things. And I was going to put out another video coming up soon that isn't just like the live stream, trying to keep good content going, because I've had some babies from this season taking the time to have their first sheds, taking the time to eat, things like that. And it's a good topic, because I'm sure some first-time keepers and breeders, if they were to experience this, probably stress them out and be a little bit worrisome. So I think in the future I'm going to try and do something where we talk about that a little bit, because I had a baby go months without shedding its first shed or eating, and it's doing all right. So yeah, I got cat hair all over my face, tickling my nose. So, but yeah, all the striped jungles are all eating except the one really nice female holdback who really making me work for it. And the zebra to zebra clutch is all shed out except for the female jungle and the male super. Still, again, going back to that topic of animals taking their sweet time. Basically, what you need to remember is these animals did not read this book. They didn't read it. They don't care what we've seen, observed, studied, and published. They really don't. They're going to do what they want to do. Oh, Adam, you know OBS. Sweet. I'll pick your brain, because I've gone through and done the advanced stuff, and I've YouTube things, and I've tinkered with my audio, but I really don't know what I'm doing ultimately. So, but yeah, so that's what's been going on over here. Oh, well, I don't want to say accidentally, but I sort of haphazardly and unintentionally bred Madagascar giant hognose snakes this year. It was a goal of mine when I first got into them. I'd worked with some at Santa Barbara Zoo, worked with the best hognose ever. She was like fully melanistic, absolute sweetheart, just the best animal, and I fell in love with the species with her. Little did I know that they're not like her. She's awesome. She's handled, socialized, and just totally unique. The rest of them, especially being imports, are wild animals. Duh. And they're a little crazy, like more than a little. They're a communal species, and when I got them in, I quarantined them communally, and then instantly found out it was hard to tell who was feeding, so I separated them into rack systems, gave them cool seasonal shifts in bedding, and the approach to how I cared to them, I popped them in and gave them a wet season, and I think I'm actually going to start doing that with a lot of my animals, is switching up their husbandry, breaking it up into 2 sections of the year, including the carpet pythons, because if actually, a gentleman by the name of Busy Black on Facebook posted this really awesome sort of couple of photos and discussion about jungle carpets. And one of the things that I took away is there's a season for them too, a wet and a dry, based on like flooding and rivers and things. So anyway, the hognose really responded to that. They were flooding, they're spending a lot of time in their water. They're basically telling me that they wanted more humidity. So I did that, and they were happier, but it was just so messy in tubs. And I was just like, frustrated with them. They were eating well, but they hated me. One of them would actively hood up and open mouth strike and try and bite me, which is very unusual for the species. If anything, they hood, they hiss, and you might get a closed mouth bluff strike. This one individual like wanted to hurt me, and they're rear fang venomous, which is not terribly concerning, but you don't know if you're allergic until you've been bit. And these guys are nuts, and they would grab and chew. So I wouldn't put it past that animal to try. The other 2 are mellow, or at least just flighty. So I have 3 of them, and at one point I just like was done. Threw in the towel. I'm sick of this. They're flinging poo everywhere. They're flinging urates everywhere. My fan has urates stuck in places that I can't get to. And I was just over it. I was like, I've got too many projects as it is. So I was going to sell them to a friend named Tim Fleming, and that's still, potential. Who knows what's going to happen? But I put them up in a cage up the top here and just said, you do you, and sort of just went hands off, and it seems to work really well because they're much more mellow. I actually find them peeking out the glass at me, looking at me when I'm in here, kind of being very observant, and they get along really well. I can sort of tell who's feeding when I pop food in. I'll leave rats in. One of them will take food from the tongs. The other 2 don't. They just get too stressed by my presence. Natural imports, right? So I just sort of stopped caring quite so strictly about what was going on with them. And I actually even forgot about cleaning them for a while. I went back in there. I was like, oh, yeah, I got to remember these guys. I was cleaning last week, and I did a double take at the female because she looked really, really distended, some scale separation. And she's the smaller of the 3. Now, being colubrids, they should be relatively the same size, but the males are going to probably be a little bit bigger. Ultimately, it depends on how you feed them, but she came in smaller than the rest as an import, probably a year or 2 younger than the other 2. And I paired them together thinking they'll just, chill out, and they'll just hang out there until I sell them, not even thinking about whether or not they would try and breed or anything like that. I'd completely forgotten that they're a late season breeder, and that wet season stimulates that. So I was checking on her. I did a double take. I was like, you look really huge. And I'd gotten her up to size to match the other ones, but didn't really cross my mind. And I picked her up and let her run through my hands, and I could instantly feel eggs. Like, there's no trying to palpate. There's no like, oh, I don't know. As soon as she ran, you feel thump, 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 thump. And I was like, well, okay. They're probably going to be slugs, or she's probably going to have issues getting them out at her size. And I posted about it. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. Anybody know how to incubate these eggs? Should I get some? And literally the next morning, checked on her because I was like, I need to check these daily. The next morning, she was wrapped around eggs. It was a small clutch. It was 3 fertile eggs and 2 slugs. They're much more oblong than carpet python eggs. They look like pine snake eggs. And with hognose eggs, they don't show veins and stuff right away. You gotta let them sit for a week or so. The slugs were clearly slugs. They were like tiny, yellow, cheesy. They're gross. I should have fed them to the monitor. He would have loved them. Sorry, buddy. So I got 3 good eggs, and they definitely are not a maternal incubation species. They will protect them, and I've read a bunch of research papers and articles about finding them in the wild, and they will sit in a burrow with the eggs, but they leave from time to time, and other individuals will sort of hang out there as well. And so they do some nest guarding behavior, egg guarding, but they don't like maternally incubate properly. They're not like a coil and shiver and generate friction to heat them up, things like that. I think the ambient kind of does it. They choose the right den and nest that gives them the best chance and climate for their eggs, and they have to incubate much cooler from every account I've read, anything from 80 to 86 degrees. Unfortunately, I'm in a huge heat spell right now out here that seems to finally be on the tail end, but I've been having a hard time keeping those eggs cool enough in the incubator. Sometimes I've just been shutting it off or even leaving the door open all night, things like that. So they're getting anything from 80 to 87 degrees sometimes and stressing me out. So I'll be very, very lucky if 70 days from now or so that those eggs have gone the distance. They still look great, so we'll see. They're about a week in, a little over a week now. So, we're 10% of the way in, so who knows? There's a long way to go. But now I'm like, oh, what do I do? Do I keep them? Do I sell them? Very few people breed these things. Bronx Zoo did it 8 years ago. There's a gal in France who got a big clutch of eggs this year. Another gentleman in the United States got a clutch this year. But otherwise, that's all I've really seen. So I don't know, one, if I'll have success, and two, how many other people have done this. I would probably guesstimate based on what I've seen in research that maybe 20 people, 30 people tops have bred these things. People will get imports in when the import window is open, and occasionally they get gravid animals, so you'll get captive hatched animals, but that's just not the same. So, my old adage is if you get, some eggs and some captive born and bred babies from wild imports, they're going to acclimate better for you. They're going to be better foundation animals for a project, and they'll breed better and do really well for you, much better than the imports. And they're such a unique species now. I'm like, oh, what do I do? Do I sell them? Do I keep them? I'm pretty full up here. I've got carpet python projects coming out of my dang ears. Tavian, I got really lucky. Like, I don't want anybody to think I'm bragging about breeding these things because, one, the eggs are still just eggs. I could completely crap the bed and they'll die, and then I've got nothing to show for it. And two, I wasn't really trying. So I don't know if I deserve any credit for it. You could put my name in a footnote, but otherwise, we'll see what happens. Steven, Bolins are on the list, man. Bolins and Papuan pythons, the Apodora papuana, those are on the list. I don't have room for them. And if I was to get into those species, I would want to have checked off a few other projects on my list beforehand to satisfy that itch. So then when it comes time to get into that, I wouldn't feel bad, lightening my load around here and not having 100 snakes and maybe having less, and then being able to focus on those animals more. I've been studying what other folks are doing with those species as much as I can, combing through every publication, listening to people anecdotally talking about it, things like that. And I get to play with some Bolin's pythons via my local shop owner. He's got a pair, and so I'm trying to expose myself as much as possible because ultimately I would like to try my hand with those species down the line, but the price is a big thing. They're like $4,000 for the Bolin's. I think Apodora you can get imports for under $1,000, but those things are just as difficult and confusing. So who knows? But maybe down the line, my girlfriend and I are trying to focus on saving for a house. So if that should happen and things should start going better in the coming years and I'll have more space, maybe it's more realistic then. But for now, I got my hands full with a lot of projects here. It's looking like this coming season I'm actually going to have to not go for all of the projects that I want to just because of space. There's about 8 to 10 carpet python pairs that I could do next season. I'm definitely going for rainbow boas because I've got a great track record with them, and I can't keep them around long enough. People really want them, so I want you guys to experience that species. Gonna try my hands with the black-tailed crebos this year. Amazon tree boas are another wild card. So I've got like a dozen pairs that I could go for this year, and absolutely no space for that many babies. So I'll have to like really sit down and prioritize and figure out what's gonna get the most effort and which ones I'm gonna have to put off for a while. And that's okay, because after this season having like only 40 babies and just the time commitment in there, it's a lot of work. So I don't want to overdo it with myself and overburden myself and then, not do justice and slight the animals as a result. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's a lot to come. So it's not all just carpet pythons, as much as I will flat out tell you they're my favorite species. That's never going to change. There's just a lot of other things that I want to do. I'm just kind of an eclectic snake keeper, I guess. I like the variety. So I'd love to add Jamaican boas down the line. I'd love to get into monkey tail skinks for my own collection. I've been working with them for 8 years. I've bred monkey tail skinks before a couple times back in Santa Barbara, but not my own. I'd love to work with Australian frilled dragons. So there's just like this never-ending list of things. So I got to be realistic. Yeah, Tavian, it is hard to cough up 4 digits for a snake. I've done it once and it bit me in the ass. I bought a designer chondro years ago and I had her for a year and a half, but she ended up swelling up full of tumors and dying on me, and that was a huge kick in the nuts. She was cool, but she was not nice. So before I leave you guys here, what's a carpets and coffee without a carpet python, right? So, ow. You can let me go now. You can let me go now. This little stinker is one of my males, and they're starting to go. Stop it! They're starting to go through their second shed, and they are very, very red, which we all know they lose, but that thing is red as a sunset. And they have excellent, excellent contrast. I'm loving this black outlining around the pattern. Don't you freak out. You're doing that to yourself. So these things are doing really well. I'm really happy with these. I'll be keeping a couple of them. They're doing nicely, and I'm just insanely excited for what the future holds for all carpet pythons. I mean, finally, Papuans are going to get their highlighted day. I think they're coming back into popularity in a big way. And anybody who's been sleeping on these things needs to wake up, because there's so much natural variety. Just the line breeding, the selective breeding. Because we can get imports and new bloodlines, they're all coming in differently. This thing wants to bite me in the face. So, yeah, the variety is endless, and we haven't even gotten anywhere with these animals, like seeing Eric Burke's collection and seeing the 40 or so Papuans he had from different lines and captive bred and all these other things. Like, the variety is endless. Chocolates, browns, purples, lavenders, grays, yellows, oranges, tans, reds, like all of it. It's there. They lose the red pretty quickly, but you can selectively breed for animals that stay orange their whole life. And it's looking like a couple of these babies are going to be going that route. And because these are F1s, they're much bitier than most Papuans are. My adults that produce these things are absolute sweethearts. So, these things being so close to wild counterparts, it's natural for them to have these instincts. You handle them and they'll grow out of it, but ultimately, the more generations we get in, the better it gets. So I highly recommend these. And if anybody's on the fence about carpet pythons and they think they're huge, these guys are small. You can keep them very small. Now, they can get big. You can feed them up to 6 feet and good-sized animals. But my adults live in 41 quarts. They breed in 41 quarts, and it's very spacious for them. my female is actually smaller than my male, and she gave me a perfect 8 egg clutch. And she's back on food, and I'm going to try and breed her again this year because there's a lot of people who I know want these things, and I want to get you guys some quality animals because I'm keeping so many from this clutch, and I'm hooking up a few other diehard Papuan folks with some of these things just to make sure they end up in the right hands first and foremost before I let other things go public. But I think jungles have had their heyday, and they're never going to get any more popular than they are. I hope they stay as popular as they are because they're awesome. You can't beat jungles, unless you're talking about striped jungles. Gotcha. But I think these things need to get some shine, and then Darwin's. Todd Dyer's got some amazing reduced pattern Darwins that are just the coolest chestnut color with striping, and you know me and stripes. So if anybody's on the fence, you can get carpet pythons and not have a 10-foot beast. You can get these things, especially Papuans, even jungles too, and you can keep them under 5 feet, under 6 feet, no problem. Living in racks, no problem. Now everybody's like, oh, they're semi-arboreal, give them room to climb. Sure, but guess what? You give any snake a stick, it's going to climb it, even a friggin' ball python. So keep them how you want. You just got to know what they need climate-wise, and they'll be just fine. They're very tough, hardy animals. There's more than one way to skin a cat, so you guys need these things. That's all I got to say. So I'm going to let this dude go. I'm stressing him out. It's going to be feeding day tomorrow, and all these babies eat really well. There's just a couple that I have to do a little extra work for. I haven't even tried feeding the children's pythons yet. They're a little over a month old. But given how much of a pain in the butt they're reputed to be, I'm just going to let them get extra hungry. So we'll see. Yeah, Travis, you have some of the biggest coastals I've seen in person, and I'd say they're maybe 7 feet. You might have a 7.5 footer. Nothing unmanageable. Boa tub or 4-foot cages behind me. Perfect. So, spread the good word of Morelia. So, anyway, we've been here for, 40 minutes? 45 minutes? Oh, damn, 45 minutes. Most people only watch this for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So, thanks to everyone who's been sticking around. Thanks to everyone who's here in the beginning, and I understand why you've had to go off and do things. I gotta, eat something and get ready for, I'm actually going to try going back to the shop today. Like I said, after my asthma attack and everything, I really do feel like I got hit by a car. My sternum is sore. Everything's lethargic. So I'm going to go in there, just take it easy, do what I got to do, and make a little money and hang out. So, but, need to sell some ball pythons and pick up some carpets. Or you can just pick up carpets. I know you love your ball pythons. Do both, man. Do both. I've got ball pythons. I've got a couple of them. I actually have 3 normales. That's fancy talk for wild types. So, yeah, man, to each his own. Love your animals regardless of what it is. If that's your flavor, if that's your thing, if you like corn snakes, if you like hognose, if you like boas, if you like whatever, man, rat snakes, do it. Do it in a big way. Put your name, put your stamp on it, and do it, because the community will get behind your genuine love for those animals if that's what it is. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go get cleaned up. Everyone who's here still, thanks for sticking it out with me. For everyone who took off, catch you next time, and I hope to see everyone at Pomona this weekend. Everyone take care of yourselves. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. I know it sounds cliche and cheesy and all this and that, but when you have a near-death experience, it really wakes you up. So, just, don't slack on your health. That's the most important thing. Even if it's just mental health, mental health is just as important as your physical health. If you've got anxiety, if you've got depression, take care of that, work on that. Talk to people. Don't be embarrassed about it. We all deal with it. I know I do. I take stuff for anxiety. I've dealt with my own depression and anger issues and all these other things. So if you don't have anybody to talk to, hit me up. Please don't let any of that slide. We're all important and we all have something to offer in this world. So there's no use letting that go and being defeated by it. The world is a beautiful place, and there's a ton of snakes to still work with, right? So, all right, everyone, have a good one. Take care of yourselves, and hope to see you in Pomona. Love, peace, and chicken grease.